have you all back. It's been a long time. It's good to hear your comments and such. Good to see you stuck around. I noticed my channel actually grew a little bit while I was gone, and pretty much I thought a lot of people would have left by now, but it seems everyone stayed. So thanks for that. I'll make it worth your while. So in the last video, I mentioned that I was homeless and all that shit. It seemed a lot of people gathered from that it is my intention to remain homeless, to avoid the system as much as I can, or something to that effect. I thought I'd point out that I have absolutely no intention of staying homeless, and it was a step, well, to find out what it was like for starters, because you never know these things until you experience them. I was pleasantly surprised. But it was also the quickest path to the next step in my life, which I'll get into in a minute. So while I was out there living homeless, I saw many other Australians living out of vans all around Sydney. This is actually very common. You go anywhere where there's services provided for free and a decent view and a place to park, you will see people living out of vans. And there's definitely a massive increase in the number of homeless people sleeping rough in Sydney. Now, why is this? Well, the truth is that Australia is no longer the lucky country, as they called it. It is now a harsh and ruthless economy, just like anywhere else. People who have lived in Sydney for generations will be gradually pushed out as the cost of living goes up and living standards go down. And this is already happening. People are being pushed out of Sydney because the only thing that's going to keep you in Sydney is money. And a lot of people just cannot come up with the cash. And they're being forced to move out of the area that their family has lived for generations. It's an economic takeover. And the interesting thing is that as I speak to everyday Australians, which I have been doing quite a lot, they are completely aware of this. Most people who aren't, complete status quo dickheads who will just defend the system no matter what it does to them, most Australians do recognize that this is happening, that the economy is getting harsher, and many people are struggling because of it. They also know that this is not good, and that they are aware that a lot of wealth is being transferred into foreign hands, but not many people know how to talk about it in a way where they don't self-censor, as they realize they might be saying something that someone might be able to interpret as racist, whatever that means today. I'm constantly asking people, do you wish harm upon a particular group of people for their race? Or do you want to completely annihilate a different group of people because of their race? And they say no. And I said, well, you're not racist then. Noticing that foreigners are acquiring vast sums of land and wealth in your country is not racist. So working class Australians are now at about the same level as immigrants, but without the benefits. I would say I'm one of these Australians, and I do indeed feel like an immigrant in my own country. I feel like, it's like the American story or something. I've arrived fresh on some boat, and now I've got to make something of this new country that I'm in. So over the last few years, a lot of people have had all kinds of different theories about the future. Things like economic collapse and environmental this and all this shit that hasn't happened. FEMA camps and fucking... So we now live in that future. We're experiencing that future right now. And I feel time has vindicated basically most of my theories as they're all coming to fruition. There will not likely be any economic collapse. And I say this because I've been keeping a close eye on what's going on in the business world to learn from it, and there is absolutely no one anywhere in the business world who talks about a coming economic collapse. They're all talking about what they're going to do to make shitloads of money and innovate for the future. No one in business thinks there's an economic collapse coming. So neither do I. And there's no evidence that it's coming. That you just see ramping up of economic activity everywhere, and there's construction going on all over Sydney. There's no way anyone would be doing all this stuff with the idea of an economic collapse in the back of their minds. There's just no way. Another thing that I don't think is going to happen, people will not likely revolt. They just don't have it in them. They have been domesticated. You remember the yellow vests in France? That should prove to you that the people can't do anything without an army, without a huge revolution, which would need to include the police and the army. The Australian equivalent of the yellow vest, so in Paris, they riot for months. I went to the Australian yellow vest to see what was going on there. There was nothing, just a bunch of hippies screaming about nothing important. Not really. And there was only about, 30, 40 of them max. And yeah, they just all looked like hippies to me. It was a joke. It was evidence that Australia doesn't give a fuck. They're willing to take just about anything, it seems, with pretty much no resistance at all. I don't see speed cameras taken down on the side of the road or spray painted over or anything like that in France. There's nothing. There's just whinging. So I don't expect anything to happen at all. So that last video I posted at this point is more than a month old. So on this channel I will be going back in time for now and showing you how I got to the place that I'm at now, and will be following my movements into the future. Life is about to get harder and even more unfair, and those who do not rise to the occasion will be crushed. I see people delivering food on their backs for almost no money, and this is happening everywhere, like Uber Eats, Deliveroo, these type of things, right? And we have a public more than willing to utilize this service. So what is coming in the future? I think the service economy is the future. Anyone who can't figure out how to make money on their own terms will be in the service industry, and you will have food on your back or something equivalent, and you'll be delivering it to people all over your area. There are going to be so many new services come up that didn't exist in the past. That is my prediction. We are also right on the cusp of movements towards a cashless society where everyone will be paying for stuff on their mobile phone. Now, I think the RFID chips was a bit of a psyop, so that everyone's worried about, oh shit, we'll know that we're all fucked when these RFID chips come out. Well, I hate to tell you, but you're already fucked, and it was the smartphones. There's no chips. No one's going to get RFID chips. Everyone's got smartphones, and that will be your wallet and just about everything else soon. The other thing that's going to define the future is complete dependence and addiction to social media. I've interacted a lot with the younger generation, and social media is central to their lives. It is the one constant that binds them all together, and they're all completely addicted to it and dependent on it, with basically no exceptions. Just different levels. Some people are on it pretty much all the time, some people just part of the time, but everyone's on it. So I have been studying business because I believe the ability to understand how to make money and to actually make that money is going to be extremely important in the future. Business people say that you should make your goals and direction clear and simple. So my new mode of operations is simple. Make music, make art, make money. And everything that deviates from this, I will consider to be a waste of time for the time being. I've essentially decided to live life like a game of GTA. That's pretty much how I feel. There was I think it was GTA 4. Anyway, there was one where you're a Russian immigrant that appears in New York with nothing. And you just have a cousin as your connection, and your cousin lied to you about how prosperous he was in America. So basically, you just show up in a unknown foreign city, and you've now got to make something. And it's very clear what you have to do in GTA, because there's a cash symbol and a bunch of numbers at the top of the screen that tells you how much cash you have. And what you find is, without cash in this city, you can't do anything. And when you get cash, you can do just about anything, including fighting off the police and the army and actually taking them down. But without cash, you're fucked. You can't do shit. And this is pretty much how life is going to go for a lot of us. It's also very clear in GTA how you get that cash, and that is by doing jobs for people. You have to provide value in exchange for money, whatever that is. I mean, in GTA it's pretty obvious, it's pulling jobs and such, but real life is going to become a lot like that, and those who cannot figure out how to make the money are going to be in the service industry. So I've already learned in my trials with business and such that you need money to make money. Well, I won't say need, but it's almost a necessity that you must have a certain amount of capital to make any money in business. Or what you'll find is that things come up where you need money to make them happen, and you will not be able to do that unless you have the money. There is no way around it. It's either going to need to be your money or what people in business call other people's money, like investors or crowdfunding, that sort of thing. But without the money, you're not going to do shit. Money gives you options. It would seem to me there is no virtue in deciding to be poor. You will likely be a burden to yourself and to others. It will be extremely hard to start a family or keep a good woman. When you have money, the main thing that stands in your way is your shadow self, as you now have the opportunity to exploit the shit out of it with your money. Now, I've never been comfortable with money or the economy or anything, but I have to get over that, and so does everyone else, because it's the way it is. It governs everything. I think back to the Wu-Tang song that I listened to as a teenager. Cash rules everything around me. Now, I thought that was just a bit of a gimmick when I was young, but these days, in my world, it's an absolute reality. Cash rules everything around me. So I'm surrounding myself with people who are in business to learn from them and for opportunities. There are also many things I've found to be untrue to myself, that I have found in my travels recently. That is that a lot of people talk about the high levels of degeneracy in the city, and then if you go out into the country, you won't find degeneracy. You're just going to find happy, healthy people and all this. I have found that to be absolute crap. In fact, I feel I'm surrounded by much more degeneracy in some of these country areas or mountain towns and things like that than I do in some urban areas. I think in urban areas it's more common, and it might be a bit more extreme in some ways, like a gay street party or something. But there's still homosexuality all throughout country areas, and drug use is absolutely rampant, along with slutty, loose women, single moms, truck driving, ignorant, trash type people. The country is full of shit people, and Literally the only link that I have seen between degeneracy or not is economic. That's certainly how it is in my country. If you are in a poor area, you are going to be absolutely surrounded by shit people, drug use, prostitution, slutty women, the whole thing. If you are in an area with lots of wealth, it is unlikely you will see any of this stuff at all. You'll just see healthy people starting families and doing a lot of healthy things with their money, like going sailing, going on holidays, going to play tennis, going to a resort, a lot of healthy stuff. There is obviously some degeneracy below the surface, but it does not compare to the poor areas where it is just out in the open and everywhere. Degeneracy rules supreme in most poor areas, and I don't think there'd be many exceptions to this. Now remember, I am talking about my experiences in Sydney, and I'll limit it to that. I'm not speaking about your area might be different. In a mountain town, I found there was probably less degeneracy, but there was a massive increase in mental illness and despair and just, people sort of drifting through life with glazed over eyes and weird habits and shit. Which is all very disappointing, but that's what I found. I also found that I am actually drawn to both nature and the city. I find that I'm drawn to chaos, and I don't find much chaos in country areas or suburbs or anything like that, but there's no shortage of it in the urban jungle. I also find much beauty in nature and in the urban jungle. There are some areas, obviously, that are just dirty shitholes, but there are a lot of nice places. And I have been filming a lot of them, which I'll be showing in future videos. I find that wealthy areas have the highest quality people, with some exceptions. I've also found that there are many good people out there, and many nice women. It has actually been a pleasant experience, and there's a lot more good people out there and worthy women than I thought. The situation is not hopeless, despite what so many people say. It is also increasingly obvious day by day that despite all the brainwashing and the climate of fear that has been projected on the populace, people are still inherently racially preferential. I think that's about the best I can word it. And this extends over all groups, pretty much all people, but it is hidden below the surface a lot of the time, or people don't like to talk about it, or when they do it in a very apologetic way. So this is nature versus nurture, and no matter how much brainwashing, no matter how much fear you project into people, nature still forces its way through, and they haven't conquered shit. They just have this cloud of fear over everyone, and as soon as people get over that, it's all gone. All the brainwashing's gone, it's all conquered. But not many people are there yet, and I don't expect them to be anytime soon. So yeah, I guess I'll be showing basically a video tour of lots of parts of Sydney. I explored parts of the city, I explored the northern beaches, so I'll be showing a lot of that. I also basically have a full-length feature presentation where I went out into the bush and did that ritual. But I basically explored the mountains, come across a lot of animals and things like that, good views, and I'm showing all that. I'm basically taking you with me as I explore the bush and do rituals at night. And the footage and how it's all come together ended up a lot better than I thought, so that should be pretty good. I've also already got messages to join people's live streams. I'm pretty sure I'm going to do some of that, and expect many videos in the future. Alright, well, until the next video, see you later.